everybody. Kairi091 hanging out with you here for this week's episode of Kairi's Cards Cast. So I know you're used to Brian Lutz joining me for the Cards Cast, and he will be soon enough, but this week he was facing some technical difficulties and unfortunately could not participate in the podcast this week. I'm hoping that he'll be back next week, but you guys are stuck with me running solo. I've never done one of these solo, so I hope it doesn't suck too bad. It's probably not going to go as long because, unfortunately, I don't have a lot to say like he does. We got a lot of cool stuff to get to today. We're going to talk about the tight end position for the Cardinals. We'll talk about the Bills in their starting quarterback situation. For some reason, we're talking about the Bills. Cardinals, we're going to talk about their guys on defense, how we're feeling about Kevin Minter, Sean Weatherspoon maybe taking over at that middle linebacker position there. Well, I guess inside linebacker. We're not running 4-3. And we're going to take a look back at the game against the Raiders. And also, I would like to discuss how I'm feeling about Arizona State. Go Sun Devils. But we're going to get started, as we will always get started, by discussing this week's... discussing this week's something.
Top 5.
There it is.
Top 5.
Oh, I like it. All right, we're going to start by discussing this week's
Top 5.
And this week's
Top 5
is coming from Reddit. I actually had some folks on Reddit contribute their ideas. The one I found most interesting was one submitted by a Reddit user named Troy Drow. And Troy Drow wanted to talk about the
Top 5
crazy predictions for the Cardinals this year. So we'll go ahead and run through what he thought, and then I'll give you my take on it. So, number 5 on the list, he's got them written backwards here, but number 5 is 3 receivers go over 1,000 yards this season. He's thinking Smokey Floyd and Fitz can do it. I don't see why not. I think that could happen. I think that Carson would really have to step up and play at a level that we haven't really seen yet, but hey, not outside the realm of possibility. Number 4, Patrick Peterson, NFC Defensive Player of the Year. Oh, boy, that one's a long shot, but I would love to see it. I feel like Peterson really needs to step up and prove that he's worth the money that he's earning. Don't you think so? And the next item on the list, some point learn the fate of Darryl Washington. Troy Drow says, this isn't that crazy, or even a prediction, really. But come on, someone say something, please. I'm with you, Troy Drow. It's not that crazy of a thing to say, or even a prediction, and I would like to know what's going on. I'd like to get D-Wash back if we could. The next entry is Catman has a perfect season. He almost did it as a rookie, that's true. So who knows, man, maybe he will. He missed a few in preseason so far, but those don't count, so we'll see what happens. That's not too crazy of a prediction. And the number 1 crazy prediction from Troy Drow on Reddit is that the Cardinals will win Super Bowl 50. Again, not terribly crazy, but still definitely something that I feel most people would regard as very out there. Let's see. We have another
Top 5.
And this one comes from a user on Reddit, Baby Powder, says the Top
5
players we will face this season. We got Aaron Rodgers, AJ Green, Megatron, AP, and Earl Thomas, probably in the reverse order with Aaron Rodgers being the number 1. I would agree with that. I don't know. I don't know where I'd put Megatron and AJ Green, although I'd probably put them on that same list there too. And I feel like you're not giving much love for the defense with that list, man. I mean, that's a great list, but like, come on, what about like Richard Sherman and, that. The
Top 5
Wolfleyism submitted by The Hobbit says, I don't have a list ready of the Top 5 Wolfleyism, so unfortunately I can't really comment on that one. My good friend, you soon-to Barman, has suggested the
Top 5
plays of the preseason, and he mentions J.J. Nelson's 54-yard catch, definitely up there. Honey Badger's interception versus the Chiefs, great moment. Ifani Moma dragging defenders and willing himself to a first down. That was excellent. Ellington's catch and run. I'm sure that was great. I don't remember exactly the play off the top of my head. But number 1, I cannot disagree with number 1. The number 1 play of the preseason, Moma going beast mode and fixing his helmet while he was running with the ball. His helmet kind of like started to come off a little bit. Let's see. And then we have one that's the recommendation of the
Top 5.
Cardinal uniforms. They got number 5, red on white. Number 4, 1985 road whites. Number 3, red on red, the old Red Sea one. I like the red on red. That's my favorite. Number 2, the Pat Tillmans. And number 2, the Pat Tillmans, the white jersey with the Arizona flag. And number 1, the black alternates. I actually like the red on red more than the black alternates. I don't know. I'm not sure if they have better luck or what the record is with that. I don't know. So anyway, that is it for this week's
Top 5.
So be sure to join us next week's
Top 5.
when hopefully Brian Lutz is back so we can go over I'm not going to do it again. I keep wanting to... I just made that like right before I recorded here, and that's me saying top 5, but I modded my voice a bit. So let's move on. Let's take a look back at last week. The first thing I want to say about last week is I want to ask a question of our O-line, and that question is...
Who the hell takes a third game in the preseason like it's bullshit? Bullshit!
Tell me, guys, who takes that third game like it's bullshit? Who does? You do, O-line. What happened to our O-line? We got manhandled by Khalil Mack, and even Dan Williams was having his way with our centers, man. I don't even know what was going on there. I miss Dan Williams, don't you? Palmer looked too eager to beat his old team. That's kind of a vibe that I was getting. My initial reaction, and I even said as much in some comments on Reddit, that the O-line just looked terrible. I mean, Jared Valdir was getting beat by Khalil Mack. Now, Khalil Mack's exceptional, so I guess you expect him to beat you, but, like, there are other exceptional D linemen in this game, too. Are they all going to be able to manhandle Valdir like that? That was pretty rough. The right side was a freaking mess. We had Bradley Sowell running the right side, and boy, he was... I don't think Bradley Sowell's going to make this team. I don't know, man. What do you guys think? I suspect Bradley Sowell's going to get cut on Saturday after we play the Broncos game. I don't think he's going to survive the final round of cuts and make the final 53. This week, they're going to start Sowell at left tackle, I heard, and they're going to put Earl Watford at right tackle. So it's looking like that might be the backups for the regular season. Well, no, Watford will probably start at right tackle, and they'll probably put DJ as backup right tackle, or maybe just backup either tackle. I don't know. DJ Humphries. But, of course, Valdir starting on the left side. And then the center position, I don't know. A.Q. Shipley was not impressing. I wasn't impressed with A.Q. Shipley. I feel like A.Q. Shipley is one of those guys I'd need to say this to.
Who the hell takes a third game in the preseason like it's bullshit? Bullshit!
Because A.Q. Shipley didn't seem to really mind giving his job to Lyle Sendline. And I feel like that's exactly what he did here in this most recent game against the Raiders. Other highlights from the game, Drew Stanton came out, played pretty darn well. Stanton outplayed Palmer, that's for sure. Stanton had as many completions as Palmer despite only 9 attempts to Palmer's 22. They both completed 8. And Stanton had 1 TD. Palmer had 2 interceptions. I feel like Palmer was a little bit too eager to get up on the Raiders. I feel like he was looking for those bomb passes every time. When I first heard the post-game presser, B.A. said something about that Carson was holding on to the ball too long. And I was thinking, what's he talking about? It wasn't even Carson's fault. It was the O-line collapsing. Well, yeah, maybe, but when the O-line collapses, you're supposed to adjust quickly and do something about it. You're not supposed to hang on to the ball and still try to hit John Brown for some go route for a touchdown. I know why he wanted to do that. He wanted to show up his old team and tell them, look what you guys let go. Well, he kind of proved him right, didn't he, for letting him go with that lousy performance for Carson Palmer. It was not his finest moment. However, it was the finest moment for Logan Thomas, best I've seen so far. Logan Thomas went out there and really put on a show, and so did Phillip Sims, which makes this third-string quarterback battle a real battle. Like, it's going to be a real challenge to determine which of those two guys should take that third-string quarterback position. The other thing that I found troubling is the running back position. And not because anyone did poorly. David Johnson is going to do what David Johnson does. We've seen what he's capable of. He didn't have a very good night against the Raiders on Sunday. Ellington is going to do what Ellington does. We all know what he's about. And then obviously Chris Johnson's probably going to be that third running back. I imagine we'll keep a fourth, but who's it going to be? Stephon Taylor, Robert Hughes, Marion Grice, Kerwin Williams. Kerwin Williams certainly showed some amazing stuff last season, but is that enough to keep him on the roster? I don't know. Marion Grice got a touchdown in this last game against the Raiders. I like Marion Grice. He played for the Sun Devils, and I like the Sun Devils. Would have been cool to see Marion Grice make this team. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think Marion Grice survives past Saturday. I think that this Thursday night game is Marion Grice's audition for 31 other NFL teams. We'll see what happens. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong because I like Marion Grice. Then we have receiving. Of course, Ifani Moma did what Ifani Moma do. I didn't even know who this guy was before he came to the Cardinals, but man, I sure know who he is now. Ifani Moma had a couple of amazing catches, including one where he got plowed by a couple of dudes and it freaking took his helmet off, and he just fixed his helmet and kept on going like it wasn't even that big of a deal. Yeah, that's pretty darn cool. Let's see here. What else did we have that happened that was cool? There was an interception by some guy named Brooks. Never heard of him, but he did pick off the ball. That's about the long and short of it. Now let's talk about what happened since the game. Dave Astudillo was cut. How do you guys feel about that? I don't feel like that's very good. I think Dave Astudillo was the better of the two punters. I know Drew Butler had that one really lousy game against Carolina with the whole punting for 7.5 yards that he did or whatever. But that's not even what upsets me about Drew Butler. I just feel like Dave Astudillo is a better punter, all in all. I've seen better things out of Dave Astudillo than I have out of Drew Butler. I think when they cut Astudillo, it's because they were going to try to get their hands on another punter. That's just my suspicion. I think the plan is to cut Dave Astudillo in time for him to go sign with another team, because now he's got week and a half to do it before the regular season. So he'll probably go do that. And then we will seek out another punter to take Drew Butler's spot, and then we'll cut Drew Butler on Saturday. That's my suspicion. Now, do I know that? Absolutely not. That's just me making stuff up there. I don't have any inside sources or nothing like that. So that's old news. What was I going to talk about? I was going to talk about the Buffalo Bills. That's right. I was going to mention something about those guys. I just have a real quick comment on them, and that is their quarterback situation. They're starting Tyrod Taylor. That's right. Rex Ryan, head coach of the Bills, has announced that Tyrod Taylor will be throwing the ball for them as of week 1. Not Matt Castle and not E.J. Manuel. Well, I think we all know why Matt Castle's not starting, because he's Matt Castle and he has a pretty low ceiling that he seems to hit. E.J. Manuel kind of came out of nowhere, being picked as early as he was. So I'm not surprised to see he is not the guy, because I don't know what he was doing getting picked up as early as he got picked up anyway. So that leaves you with Tyrod Taylor. Going to be throwing the ball to the likes of Percy Harvin out there. Tyrod Taylor was a 6th round pick, 180th overall in the 2011 draft by the Ravens, and he played for the Ravens up until now. He does have a Super Bowl ring. He did win a Super Bowl while playing with the Ravens, so I guess he's the only guy on that Bills team that's got a Super Bowl ring. Good for him. That's it for my NFL at large commentary. I want to talk about ASU real quick. This is just a little bit about ASU. ASU's taking on Texas A&M this weekend. This is a big game. SEC opponent. Normally a game like this, first game would not be all that big of a deal, but Kirk Herbstreit, national sports writer Kirk Herbstreit, has picked ASU to be in the top 4, the college football playoff, which is a pretty exclusive club to be in. Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? That wasn't recording. That's actually me. I can do that soundbite. Kirk Herbstreit picked ASU to go to the playoffs. I'm not saying that beating A&M is necessary to get there. If you can lose to A&M and then win out the rest of the season. But beating A&M certainly buys you some points for the selection committee when it comes time to choose which 4 teams are going to that playoff. It would be so cool to see ASU make that playoff. Mike Bercovici's final season at quarterback for the Sun Devils, because he's a senior, so he's most likely going to get drafted next year. It would be really rad to see what happens with Mike Bercovici. So, now that we have discussed
Top 5
and who the hell takes a 3rd game in the preseason like it's bullshit?
Let's move on to the 4th game in preseason like it's bullshit. What I'm looking forward to in the 4th game of preseason, the final game, determining who we're going to keep at tight end. We got a real problem on our hands here, guys. We got a few good names there. I can't imagine we're going to keep more than 3, right? But we have 4 that might be worth keeping. Jermaine Gresham, Troy Nicholas, obviously Ifani Moma, and then Darren Fells. I mean, not awful, right? We did draft Gerald Christian, but we drafted, I think he was Mr. Irrelevant in 2015. I think he was the 2015 Mr. Irrelevant, Gerald Christian. He probably doesn't make the final 53 unless he really wows this weekend. But if we're only keeping 3, that means either Fells or Nicholas or Gresham or Moma is going to have to go. And which of those 4 do you cut? I would maybe Fells, I guess? I don't know, man. Either Fells or Nicholas. I got to say you keep Moma and Gresham. That's my opinion, but what the hell do I know? So, the other thing I want to see is I want to see Minter step up and become that leader at inside linebacker. I think he's capable of doing it. I think he's had a couple of seasons to get in shape and to get ready for this. I think he played like a trooper last year. I read that he had like a detached pectoral muscle and he still played through it last season. And he opted to not get a surgery that would end his season and repair the muscle. Instead, he just played through it and toughed it out wearing like a harness to hold like his pectoral muscle in place. He couldn't even do a push-up because his muscle wasn't attached to the bone. Anywho, I think Kevin Minter needs to step up. I certainly hope that he does. Sean Weatherspoon, I hope to see him out there, and I hope to see him doing something cool too. Because we're going to need a strong presence at inside linebacker to lock up the middle of the field there. We get burned by tight ends, you guys. Cardinals fans, we know this. We get burned by tight ends. Vernon Davis, now we got, Vernon Davis around no more. We got Jimmy Graham in the division. Tight ends love to light us up. We need a good, strong inside linebacker who's going to have a dominant presence in the middle of the field to shut down the tight ends. So I think that Kevin Minter needs to step up and be that guy. Thursday against Denver. Couple of days, we got a game coming up. Cardinals playing Denver Broncos. Last game of preseason. And Phillip Sims is going to start. No first-teamers. No Drew Stanton. Phillip Sims is going to start the game. Logan Thomas will get some time too. There's going to be the deciding factor as to who gets that third-string quarterback job. I personally would like to see it go to Phillip Sims. Not a fan of Logan Thomas. But who knows? Bruce Arians knows more than I do. I'm going to trust his judgment. Somebody asked me recently if I think that Phillip Sims is going to take over when Carson Palmer retires. No, I do not. I haven't seen anything to make me think that yet. Might Phillip Sims change my mind in the next season or 2? Absolutely. But presently, I would be terrified if we had to give this team to Phillip Sims. Even as early as next season, I don't think it'd be a good idea. Undrafted free agent? Yeah, there's a reason why. I mean, I know sometimes Tony Romo goes undrafted, but most of the time, quarterbacks who don't get drafted, there's a reason why. The other thing I'm excited to see in this Denver game is actually on the other side of the ball. If I am not mistaken, and let me look this up before I make a fool out of myself and, sound really stupid. I would like to see, yes, Brock Osweiler. Yeah, Brock Osweiler will probably get some time for the Broncos, don't you think? Wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that be cool to see Sun Devil great Brock Osweiler, Big Brock, take the field and do something fun out there? I wonder how they feel about him in Denver. I wonder if the Denver folk feel like he is like the heir to Peyton Manning. When Manning retires, is Osweiler going to take the reins? Do they feel like he's that guy? I don't know. I like Brock Osweiler. So, and BA says that Bruce Arians says Watford's going to be at right tackle and Sowell at left tackle. Like I said, I think this is Sowell's last stand. I think this is Logan Thomas's last stand. I think the two of them have a lot to prove this week. I think if they fail to do it, I think that's probably going to be it for them. Speaking of that being it, that's going to be it for me. I don't have a whole lot more else to say. Sorry that Lutz wasn't here this week. I know I'm not as exciting as Lutz. I know I'm not as clever and insightful and well-studied, but I'd like to think I'm a lot of fun. Plus, this week, I didn't need Lutz since I had the help of my
Top 5
sound things that I made. Let's hear it one more time. No, let's not listen to that one. That one's stupid.
Who the hell takes a third game in the preseason like it's bullshit? Bullshit!
Anyways, guys, thank you so much for listening, and I hope that this podcast makes it on your list of your
Top 5
favorite podcasts of the preseason. Thank you so much for listening. Have a fantastic week. I will talk to you next week in preparation for the regular season versus the New Orleans Saints. Bye.